Hey everyone, welcome back to Class 1A for episode 7 of season 5 of My Hero Academia. It is match 3. Your normal homeroom teacher, Andrew, isn't here today, so I will be your substitute for this week. My name is Dylan, and of course, I am joined by the wonderful James Graham. James, it's a two-person episode. We've done these in the past, but it's been a bit. How are you doing this morning?
It has been a while since you and I have done like a duo episode. I'm doing good. I'm doing good. This is a good way to start my morning. So
Yeah.
I'm feeling all right, man.
We had a very exciting morning of prepping everything. Usually Andrew does it all for us, so we didn't have that convenience. So it was interesting to say the least.
It was about 15 minutes of panic while we realized we should have done this earlier. But
Yeah. But we love My Hero, and we would not let an episode go through, so we had to do it for all of you. But before we jump into things, if you are hyped for My Hero like we are, Class 1A is the place to be for a fan of My Hero Academia. So make sure you're subscribed here at YouTube, at Class 1A on YouTube. We're on Twitter at Class 1A Pod, or you can email us at contact@popdoff.com. We read all your emails, and they might even be on the show. So we can't replicate Andrew's wonderful recaps. So we're going to go ahead and just hit the big notes as a refresher. So please bear with me with this one, but it will be a short one. So we start the episode in the aftermath of the second round battle. 1B is helping 1A, and we get some nice moments here of the classes kind of talking with each other and helping each other out. I think it's like a good reminder that they're not like mortal enemies. They aren't villains or anything like that. They're just students, and at the end of the day, they still have each other's back. We take a quick break to set up the next location. This one is kind of busted and full of mushrooms, so it needs a couple hours to cool down, so to speak. All Might stops by and talks to Deku about his quirk and asks if anything he notices is off about it. We jump and see Momo is the only one who really needs any help from Recovery Girl. She's kind of just lounging in like the student clinic, just recovering for a little bit, but nothing seems too serious there. Then we jump over to the third match, and it is going to be a good one. It is Shoto, Iida, Ojiro, and Shoji, and the 1B team, we will dive into that in a little bit after the recap. We hear Iida's brother is actually recovering pretty well. We get some flashbacks of him just in a wheelchair, so he seems to be up and doing pretty well. Then we go into the fight, and Tetsutetsu kicks things off by destroying everything he sees in sight, causing an absolute scene and making Vlad King very disappointed. Then we jump over to Endeavor's POV as he takes down a car villain, I assume, during a team up. So he's acting a lot nicer towards his fans, and he seems to be focused 100% on just talking with his son again. Then back to the fight. The teams finally clash with Todoroki, freezing most of 1B, but then we are introduced to Juzo, aka Mudman, who can soften any surface and breaks everyone out of the ice. And then we end with Iida's new move, Recipro Turbo, as he rips out of the ice and starts advancing forward. So that was a quick recap. I just wanted to kind of hit the big notes just as a little bit of a refresher, but we have quite a few things to go into. But the first thing I want to talk about, of course, is Pony's English.
It's Pony's English. That's the first thing we're talking about.
I want to talk about it. It is, I don't know, I always find it kind of interesting because whenever they have a character speaking English in an anime, it's never like actual English. It's always like somebody who like probably doesn't know English and is just like reading off lines. But it's really weird because like Pony, as she's talking, has an English or like an American accent when she speaks Japanese.
Yeah, but like when she speaks English, it is clearly very much not a native English speaker, right? Like because you can tell by how they format the sentence with the syllables and everything like that. It feels very janky, you know what I mean? So I mean, you and I talked about this while we were kind of getting sent. Like why don't we have bilingual actors? Like why voice actors? Is that something that's super rare? Like I mean, why? Kind of shocked it hasn't happened yet, right?
Yeah, especially since I don't know, I think English, like Japanese English voice actors would be probably easier to get, especially if you're a huge anime like My Hero, right? Like that doesn't seem like a very specialized kind of role that you need to get. So I don't know. I thought that was really interesting, and it also makes me think, what is the reverse of that we just haven't noticed, right? Like what, like I don't know, maybe like cartoons growing up or anything that like a character spoke a different language that like was actually just like not even close.
It was just butchered, and we
Yeah.
just had no idea. Yeah, no, that's a good point. I like it. Makes you kind of reflect on the whole scene. And the other thing is too is like these voice actors are not like they're not like one dimensional. Like I'm sure a lot of these voice actors could learn English prominently if they needed to, and I guess it's just not a focus. I guess I don't know.
Yeah, but I always I thought it was interesting, and she is a interesting character, so I definitely wanted to talk about that. But going into some of our main topics,
Hmm.
let's go ahead and kick it off with I think what we want to talk about the most, and that is the 1B quirks. So why don't you give us a rundown of them, and we can kind of break them apart.
Yeah, for sure. So we're gonna start off with the one we know, the the evil we know, which is of course Tetsutetsu. His quirk is steel. To our knowledge, there's been no major change from like the previous iterations we've seen. He's just as strong as he is. Like we saw him breaking apart concrete, no issue there. Then we're gonna go into Juzo, aka Mudman. His quirk is softening. We saw this in the episode to great effect that he is like you can soften anything, including ice, which I didn't think was going to happen, but it did immediately. I was like, oh, okay, sick. Then we have Sen Kaibera, which is gyrate. So he can gyrate any part of his body. So this just is shown in his, in his arms and legs, but we don't know what extent this is. He could turn himself into a goddamn Beyblade. Who knows, right? and then we have Pony Tusatori. I'm gonna butcher that name. And her quirk is horn cannon. It's similar to kind of how Hawks uses his feathers. She just does it with her horns, and they're of course much bigger. And you see this in the show to basically propelling Tetsutetsu and able to like manifest several at a time and pin Shoji. So you get a nice wide range of quirks. I think you get some really interesting. I think as Deku mentioned, the show 1A is kind of more well-rounded, I think, in team composition, but Class 1B's quirks are all like very unique and interesting.
Yeah, I just like can't help but think how unique some of these are. And so going back to the last episode, I think it
Mhm.
was pretty clear from the first showings that like Kinoko, like her design was made before her quirk was made. Like they
Right.
designed her, put her as a background character, and then was like, "Oh, she can do mushrooms," because she didn't.
Mushrooms.
Yeah, so like she literally didn't do anything in the sports festival, right? And I'm wondering
Yeah.
how true that is for a lot of these other characters because I could totally see that for Pony as well, of where like you make this character that looks like that, and you're like, "Oh, it's interesting." You could take this quirk in a million different directions, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's just something they like well, we need an exchange student. Let's make her look like kind of like a I don't know, like an ox, but like, this cute little ox person, right? And we'll just run with it, right? I think another thing is too is like what they do with the more like plainer characters, like because Kybera is like there's nothing really like stand outish about him until you see him in action. You're like, oh, this guy's got this really weird and unique quirk, right? So I don't know if they're almost like afterthought quirks that come in like as the show's kind of progressed, and they've kind of put some more thought into like the intricacies that you can do with quirks, but it's weird to see that and like how they are represented on the character too, right? Like I mean, like with Pony, it's like it's the horns, but like what you can do with the horns, and with Kybera, it's the same thing. Like in, I don't know, it's just I find it really cool.
Yeah.
And I think we got to talk about Mudman too. We have to talk about Mudman.
Mudman
It's
is awesome. He's so cool. Like his ability is so cool.
and he's like I think we were talking about this about the recommendations. We were always trying to figure out who were the people who brought in a recommendations. Mudman's one of them. He like Juzo is one of the ones who got in through Class 1B through recommendation. Didn't have to do the entrance exam, whatever. He was just boom, he was in, right? And you can see why. Like he is not only effective with his quirk, but like I mean they've hammered it home to us in the episode. Like he is flexible. He is
Hmm.
quick thinking. He is adaptable. And I think that shows how effective of a hero he is, right?
And not only is he flexible, but he's just so cool under the pressure of everything. Like everything's
Mhm.
happening, and he's just like going with it. He's like, yeah, it's no big deal.
Yeah.
Um, his outfit is incredible too. Like it's
Oh,
so cool.
yeah. His hero costume is spot on. Spot like color combination. The like I like when I first read through it in the manga, I like forgot who the character was without the costume. Like I forgot like he's got the very iconic like his teeth are like all exposed and stuff like that. Because he's got a very iconic look when you don't see him in hero costume, and then you see him with it, and you're like, oh shit, like this is the same dude, and he just feels so much more badass with the hero costume. I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And I I just love Tetsutetsu as well. I'm
You
glad that
can't
we get
not.
more of him. He's just so perfect, and I like his differences with like Kirishima because you bring the two together, and like the whole joke is that they're exactly the same. But I
Yeah.
love how they like clearly made it. It's like no, they're obviously very different. Like their quirks operate in a similar capacity, but they are different, and they have like I guess like different outcomes and overall like a different personality at this point of the show. And so I'm glad that we're kind of circling back to Tetsutetsu and getting more of him.
I think it was a separation that was needed, right? Because you didn't just want a clone character in Class 1B. I find Kirishima's very much on like the honor and like manliness kind of side of things, and like doing things that are like almost like chivalrous and stuff like that, right? Where Tetsu just does not give a shit. He's just I almost like rope him in more with like Bakugo almost at this point as far as personality. Like I think he's a fine combination of the two, which it makes like again makes him his own character, right? And that's awesome.
Yeah, his personality is like a nice Bakugo,
Yeah, yeah,
which
exactly.
is weird to think about, but yeah. And you know, I'm always glad that we kind of get him again.
Yeah,
But I don't know. I really like the way that Horikoshi kind of designs his characters. Of going back to what I was saying before of kind of creating the characters and putting them in the background and just going, I'll think about quirks about for them later. And I think that's a really good way to approach it because it gave him how many years in like in terms of like the show running or like the manga running for him to like really sit down and then slowly start designing out these characters just for this moment. And I think that's
yeah.
super cool.
No, it's crazy to think about too, and like to me, it's almost like the UA trader thing where I feel like it's a thing he puts in. He's like, I'll circle back to it. I'll get back to it, and like, and sometimes he does, and sometimes he doesn't. But
Okay, listen. He always circles back. We're gonna get the trader eventually. I just know it.
okay, yeah, sure. But like you just, it's always shocking to me how well he executes these characters that clearly have an initial design and that's it, and then he comes back and he's like, I have now a binder worth of shit we can do on this character, and it just manifests so well. Every one of these characters interests me. Juzo, Kybera, like all of them, man. Like it's crazy, like how effective he makes these characters that are background characters not anymore. Like as soon as
Yeah.
they get some limelight, and it's like holy shit.
And what the
Like,
really cool thing about it is Horikoshi, because he's so good at designing characters, it would be very easy just to have like new characters constantly come in and be cool and interesting.
mhm.
But the fact that he like does a half design and puts them in the background, it doesn't feel like we're constantly getting barraged with like new characters. It's like these characters have always existed, and it feels like their full design has always existed, but just in the background. And it makes the world just feel so much more built than it actually was at the start, which is, I don't know, it's kind of cool to like go back and think about like, oh yeah, like most of this stuff was just like background drawings and not really elaborated on or anything.
Yeah, it makes the world feel like almost like fuller than it is initially perceived to be, right? And I think that really speaks to how effective Horikoshi is. Like I
Hmm.
think that's like an incredible trait that I don't think a lot of people can duplicate to this effect.
Yeah. But is there anything else that you want to talk about with the quirks before we move on? I think I hit
Um,
my big ones.
Not so much the quirk, but I do want to just touch on the personalities, I think, of the Class 1B guys. Kybera, like as I've like I because I don't know why his aesthetic just really did it for me. But I went back and I realized that he always looks kind of like lazy and like laid back and stuff like that. But he's not at all. He's like a stress basket, right?
Hmm.
I thought that was really cool to give like these characters again, like you said, like their quirks so much like creativity, but their personalities are like they're very unique people as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, it would be very easy just to like give a lot of these characters like that one-dimensional kind of personality trait that is aligned with their quirk, so to speak, and
Mhm.
then just like throw them in. But again, I mean, this on this podcast, we rise up Horikoshi every time we possibly can because he's amazing. But I mean, it
Yeah.
just speaks to his writing is really good on that.
It's hard not to. It
Yeah.
really it really is.
But the next thing I wanted to talk about, because it was just so prominent throughout, is all the flashbacks. Because we got a ton of flashbacks. And I wanted
Yeah.
to talk about, I guess, what kind of drive us into one of them in particular. And that was what was going on with Iida. So during this episode, we saw a couple flashbacks to him talking with his brother and the whole,
Mhm.
him taking up the Ingenium mantle, so to speak. and we start hearing about how Ingenium he's starting to do a lot better now. He's actually like up. He's not walking. He's still in a wheelchair, but he's actually up now. And then we finally end with what is a kind of gruesome scene.
Yeah, like a degree of like self-mutilation. Like
Yeah.
I was really blown away by it. Like it was a lot. It was a lot for a show that's you would assume isn't always, like it's not like a mature show by any means, right? Like I mean this is supposed to be like kind of a kid show, right? Like
Yeah. Yeah, like it is a kid's show, but like he was just like ripping. So he was ripping out the mufflers in his calves
yeah.
and training without them because the idea is that whenever they grow back, they're going to grow back stronger. And this was like like a technique passed down through the family, I guess. And they finally told Ida about it.
Yeah, and so I think so there's a couple things about the Iida family that's really interesting to me. The fact that with like you see in a lot of families that the quirks kind of manifest and tweak in like one way or another, or they're like forced in a direction, like Todoroki's. Iida's is almost ass backwards, where the family has traditions around the quirk. The quirk is by seems to be fairly linear.
Hmm.
And and Ida's learning more quirks from his family, not because he is further down the bloodline. You know what I mean? His quirk hasn't been changing because he's like, you talked about this in another video. Oh my god, the long ass name,
Like the
the
quirk
quirk
singularity.
quirk singularity. Yeah, exactly right. Where Ida's not really like his family's not really about that. They're again, like I said, they're ass backwards, right? So he's learning stuff that his grandfather did, that Ingenium did, and yeah, now we're seeing Iida do it. Now he's got these really crazy ass mufflers, not like the baby mufflers. Like he went from stock to aftermarket, and like, and it's pretty crazy to see.
And actually, that makes me think of like kind of a nefarious thought behind that is what if we got kind of the same mentality of the Endeavor family, except in the opposite way of instead of trying to like marry and have kids to have these crazy like combination of quirks, does this mean that they have like select matchings in their family to limit the quirk?
Oh yeah, just to make sure the quirk stays like as true to like the original iteration kind of thing.
Yeah, like
Oh.
maybe are they only marrying like quirkless people? Because like right? Like think about Ida's dad, right? Like I think they alluded that he had the ability as well maybe.
Yeah, I think it was not only his older brother was of course
Yeah.
this iteration's Ingenium, but I think his father was the Ingenium before that, and then his grandfather before that. I
And,
think
and,
that's
and
how the
so and
line
so
is
that
built.
implies that like whoever they married was either quirkless or the quirk never manifested. And I'm wondering,
Yeah,
like, maybe was that on purpose? Like, was
is
that
it?
was that a very purposeful thing, or like, did it just happen this way? Like, I don't know. I think that there could be nefarious things behind this.
It's weird to think about of like it working in the inverse and trying to keep like almost like quirk purity. Like it's a really it's a really
Hmm.
weird concept to think about, right? But yeah, I mean, it might have been the case. It doesn't seem like anybody in the family's against it though. Like Ida's mom seems super chill. Like so I don't know. Maybe everybody's okay with it. Who knows?
Hmm.
Might not be as nefarious, but I guess there is a decent amount of quirkless people. You might be able to pull it off, but
Hmm.
then you're risking having a quirkless kid. Who knows?
So I actually, so one, the ability seems to be super cool. It's just
Hmm.
he has bigger mufflers and he can do his special move longer now. I guess right.
That seems to be it. It seems to be like it is a degree of a level up, but it's more like the super move was already crazy effective, but it was like a one shot kind of deal, right? And then of course this is why Juzo was like, why did you open with this, right? You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And this is because Ida can perpetuate it for 10 goddamn minutes, which if you think about it in a battle scenario, that is a long time, right? Like
Yeah.
that's a lot of damage you can dish out because we've seen how effective it is, right? He went toe to toe with Stain because of this move, right? So
Yeah. And I guess the flashbacks overall, I liked the Ida flashbacks a lot
mhm.
because they weren't old flashbacks. They were like new flashbacks. They were flashbacks of things we haven't seen before, and I think I
Yeah,
liked that a lot. Because I felt myself feeling a little stale on a lot of the flashbacks that we've seen before. Like a lot of stuff with like Shoto, it's like Yeah,
You know,
we've gotten it. We've gotten the Shoto stuff before a million times, but like the Iida stuff was pretty new, and so I don't know. I really like that, and I hope they start leaning on that a little bit more.
yeah, they weren't rehashed flashbacks. Like I get that you kind of use it to like chew up airtime and stuff like that, but I think it does take away from like the substance of what the flashback is when you see it so many times, right? Like, I mean, I'm almost to the point where like as soon as I see like one of these scenes cut in, I'm like, all right, I can actually skip ahead. I know because I like right? Like you know exactly what's gonna happen. But with the Edith stuff, like that is good. That is good stuff. That's the kind of flashbacks you want. I don't think it's necessarily bad to use flashbacks in an episode, but I think they need to be new flashbacks or like maybe drawing back stuff that we like you might not remember as a viewer from like seasons ago and stuff like that. I think that is okay in some circumstances, but what they're doing now is they're like they're kind of beating the dead horse. Like, and it's just like, okay, we know Shoto's got a rough deal, like you know, like he's got a bad time. I think that one specific though might be again to remind us that Toya exists. Like I think that might be it might be like a used for twofold kind of thing.
Hmm.
So I think it has its place, but yeah, it did feel like a little stagnated.
Yeah.
Stagmented, yeah.
So the last thing I want to ask, and we don't have to go into this very long because we talk about it quite often. I just want to
Yeah.
get another temperature check. No pun intended with that one.
Yeah, it's 100% a pun.
But Endeavor,
Yeah.
is he redeemable? Is he doing a good job? Is he doing a bad job? How do you feel?
I mean, he's doing everything he can. Like, I mean, our boy has a lot to atone for. You actively trying to reach out to his kid, like literally just like double, triple texting him, just trying to get a hold of him. I guess he like found his account on some social media platform through the help of somebody too, which I thought was
What
hilarious.
social media do you think it is?
See, like Todoroki doesn't like. I don't know what he would. He would have like a Vizco or something like that, and that's it. Like that's all he would have. I don't think he'd have like a Twitter, a Facebook. Like
I have the correct answer. I actually do know what the correct. It's Line. He's just talking about Line.
Is that it?
Yeah,
Is
because
that
that's how you text people. So it's just
Oh.
Line.
Wow.
Yeah, sorry to
Okay.
let you down. But
I see. I want to like headcanon this, but
so I don't know. I feel weird about whenever Endeavor does this kind of stuff because like I understand like wanting to be redeemed or whatever, but it feels like he's like I was nice to some civilians. Time to text my son and hopefully he replies to me. It's like sure, give it time. Like give it some time.
yeah.
Like it feels like he's like I want to be redeemed, and then the next day he's like, hey, I'm trying to be redeemed. Talk to me, please. Like he needs to give us some time.
But I think that makes the character that much more tragic is that he doesn't know how to like properly traverse this, right? He has no really idea on how to like even ask for forgiveness. He doesn't really know how to do it, right? So he's just trying everything, right? So I think that makes it all kind of more sad, like that it's kind of this approach. Because he just seems so out of touch, right? Like he really does feel very removed, and he's just trying everything that he knows he's done wrong previously and flipping it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Super nice to the kids, just blowing up his son, trying like it went from no contact to like all the contact in the world, you know what I mean? So I think is he redeemable? Yet to be seen. Is he trying? Hell yeah, he is.
All right. So I wanna end our topics with another question.
Okay.
So based on the state of the match so far and
Mhm.
how everyone's power level, who
Yeah.
is your money on for next week? What team?
I mean, it's difficult because me personally, you can never count Todoroki out. You never can. He's a goddamn wild card. It's ridiculous, right? But Mudman's effectiveness, like, I mean, so the shitty part is, and he's like my favorite character in the show. I bring him up all the time. Shoji is great at scouting. Goddamn, is he bad at everything else though?
Yeah,
Right?
he is.
And he looks like he should be able to beat the shit out of somebody, but he can't, right? And he's just a really, really effective scout, right? So I feel like it's almost like a degree of a liability. Ojiro is already, as you've seen, like he's getting held at bay by Kybera just because of how his quirk operates, right? You're not just hitting somebody, you're hitting somebody and digging into them like nobody's business, right? So he almost is losing that. And now you have Todoroki in a hand-to-hand combat situation that he's pretty effective at long range and like medium range, but somebody trying to actually beat the crap out of him, we haven't really seen how he does, right? And Tetsutetsu's like as we ended the episode, he's already on top of him, right? So I don't know how that transitions. And I mean, not to play into the episode preview too much, but we see a flaming red, like hot Tetsutetsu. So like God knows, like who wants to fight that? Who wants to fight that, man? So I personally I want to put it on 1B, like, and that's me betting against my boy, man. Like but I think I think it's gonna be a shit show either way.
I think I have it on 1B as well, mostly because of the interaction between Mudman and Pony. I think that combo is so deadly of just being able to like, soften the ground so you can't move on it, and then have something that could like fly around and even pick up your teammates and move them around the battle. Like, that seems like a combo that's like almost unbeatable. But like you said, like you can't count Todoroki out because like he could just go like full like, kind of like shonen mode and just like just do hellfire everywhere or whatever from Endeavor, and like everyone just dies or something. You're like, okay, cool.
Exactly. Like, I mean, Todoroki's one of the few characters in the show that like it's a common trope to do like the Super Saiyan kind of thing, that like that really blatant level up. But he is the character in the show.
He literally goes Super Saiyan. Him and Deku are people that literally go Super Saiyan sometimes.
Exactly.
Deku more so because of the hair, but
the hair goes right. Like, I mean, I think Bakugo's in a perpetual state of Super Saiyan too. So like, I mean, like, it's but like he is one of like these big three people that we think are going to come out of this out of My Hero and be like these crazy heroes, right? So I it's so hard to bet against him.
Yeah. All right, so it is that time of the week again. It is time for the Plus Ultra Award. For those who don't know, Plus Ultra is every single week we give an award to someone who went above and beyond for this week. At the end of the season, we're going to tally them up and tell you who went Plus Ultra the most. And we will make sure to get Andrew's in a little bit late onto this one, but we will get his in. So I'll go ahead and start with you, James. Who do you think went Plus Ultra?
I mean, like, of course you're going to start with me.
I mean, I could start with me, but
I guess you could just like, yeah, that's true. You know what? I wanted to give it to like one of the guys from Class 1B because like it's the first time we've seen their skills, but like I mean like that doesn't really embody Plus Ultra, so I think it's got to be Iida. I think it kind of has to be Iida. We have a definitive Plus Ultra situation. Man goes above and beyond. He's down and out kind of thing, and then he's got that rise up. You get the crazy flashback of all this crazy ass self mutilation that he did to be better. I think it's Iida. I think it's got to be Iida.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious that it's Iida. I don't know, the flashbacks really solidified it for me, and like him being able to use his like new ability and like you said, like the weird self mutilation training he went through, which I don't know when. When did he have time to do that?
I don't know, because he's in a forest by himself.
He's in a forest by himself, but like they've had dorms. Did he just like leave for a week and it's like, all right, guys, I'm gonna leave and just go in these woods for a bit?
And like that's something that like some asshole like Deku would notice. He'd be like, "Hey, Iida, notice your mufflers are gone. What's the deal there, dude?"
I noticed you're bleeding from the holes in your leg. What's up?
So it's like he must have. I don't know. Maybe he took leave. I guess. Maybe I have no idea.
I think we need to break down the timelines. Figure out where everyone was at all points in time. Figure out when they went home, when they didn't go home. I'm actually thinking it might have been before they went into the dorm. Well, no, that doesn't make sense either.
No, it doesn't. It had to have been after the dorms. Like, I mean, like what? I really don't know where to pinpoint this in the show, like when he would have done this.
Were they in the dorms after midterms?
Is that it? I mean, it depends on like
maybe they had a Christmas break or a summer break. Oh, they have summer break, so maybe during like a summer break or something.
But do we know that they just came back and did this like training arc like right at the beginning of the semester? I guess they because
right now it's like we're in the fall-ish time.
We are, because that's why we get like all the costume different changes and stuff like that. You must have a summer break, right? Like that has to be it.
Yeah. So it had to have been during the summer break. Okay.
And he's just okay. We'll investigate this. We're gonna
we'll get our people on it.
Yeah, we're gonna get a graph. It's gonna be great.
All right. So thank you all so much for listening or watching this week's episode of the Class 1A podcast. If you're not already subscribed, please subscribe so you're in the know for all the hype content we've released. We've released a ton of content. So if you go to youtube.com/class1a, I think at this point we have like 3 videos a week around My Hero. So if you are a My Hero fan, Class 1A is the place to be. So make sure that you're following us, and we will catch you all next week for episode 8. Thank you all so much.